Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, now. So good afternoon and welcome to this panel. My name is Bianca Dragomir. I am director at Cleantech for Iberia, which is a coalition of the leading cleantech investors, innovators, banks, philanthropies, universities across Spain and Portugal. And our mission is to turn the Iberian Peninsula into Europe's cleantech industrial hub. And that is particularly the title of our session today. I'm delighted to welcome our speakers. First, Minister for Energy and Environment, Maria da Graça Carvalho, thank you very much for joining us. Also, Director General for Energy at the European Commission, Dite Yul. Director General for Operations at the European Investment Bank, Jean-Christophe Lalou. João Rosa, Executive Board member at Rega Energy, one of the top cleantech innovators in Portugal, and Alberto Toril from Breakthrough Energy. He's Manager Europe of the power sector. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. And I guess that the flavor that these days, first days at COP are leaving us is that we are at a make or break moment in Europe's and global climate innovation story. And that is particularly for two reasons. On one hand, we are in a climate emergency and looking at the Iberian Peninsula, particularly to Valencia in Spain. We've seen that this city has become, over the last days, the epicenter of the climate emergency. For example, there's 10 times more extreme rainfalls in Valencia than 10 years ago, and these are 10 times stronger than 10 years ago. So I think that gives us a glimpse of the magnitude. And on the other hand, also because of the global fierce competition, US, China, we all know, and Europe now being in the eye of the storm. So I guess this is a timely panel to really take stock of where we are and where we need to go in this context. And also in Europe, we have an upcoming clean industrial deal, so high stakes, high games there. This it's likely to be a new go, a new start for Europe, a new change in the cleantech race, having to do a lot with strategic autonomy, with cleantech scalability, and of course with our competitiveness. And within the European map, we are also seeing that the industrial maps are shifting. We see the Iberian Peninsula emerging as a new cleantech industrial leader. Just a few indicators. Iberia is at the moment home to 20% of the green hydrogen projects worldwide. It has a strong industrial base. If we look at both Portugal and Spain, there are progressive renewable energy targets fueling cleantech growth. Portugal is an example here, is leading with the example, targeting an impressive 93% of electricity production from renewable energy sources before 2030. And of course, if we look at investment, we see that also cleantech investment has actually increased sixfold over the last 5 years. So these are, of course, good building blocks for Iberia to step in the leadership of the green reindustrialization. And that's particularly what we are going to talk about today. And allow me to start with you, Minister. To ignite this session, I think I would like to hand over to you, because over the last years you've been one of Europe's leading voices in terms of accelerating the green transition as member of European Parliament. We all know, and now as Minister of Energy. So I would like to ask you where we are now and where we need to go in Europe's cleantech journey, and what is the role that the Iberian Peninsula is playing or can play, and particularly Portugal, in Europe's reindustrialization, green reindustrialization. Thank you.
Thank you very much for organizing this pavilion and organizing this event, and welcome to the Portuguese pavilion, and thanks for calling, for choosing this place for organizing your event. And feel at home, come back, especially in the end of the afternoon, to try our special cakes, pastéis de nata, that we have every day. This is a very important topic for us because in the past we had a problem in the attraction of investments in industry because we had a very high price of electricity. Now it's the opposite. Both Portugal and Spain have an added value in attraction of investment of industry because we have affordable, clean electricity, and we will have very soon a very impressive amount of also green hydrogen available. We are doing a lot of investment, and part is European funds, the Resilience and Recovery Plan. We are doing the infrastructure. For example, we have a pipeline across a part of Sines. Sines is a place where we have our most important harbor. So we are preparing this for hydrogen, providing hydrogen and providing water and desalinating water from the sea for cooling, access to electricity and access to hydrogen. Our electricity network is building a strong grid on that area, so it's an important place for investment and to have access to water, hydrogen and renewable electricity at an affordable price that much in a very competitive way with the rest of the world. So that what was a disadvantage in the past is now an advantage. What we need to do, still some of the sectors of industry require more investment on pilot scale. We have some sectors such as the energy intensive industries, cement, steel, a bit the glass and the ceramics, and there are all sectors that we have in Portugal. It's very, very strong ceramic and glass, and there we are helping them with incentives to lower the tariff. We have a new definition of electro-intensive sectors where we include all these sectors. So they will pay less electricity. We are now negotiating with DG Competition in order to do that. I hope that we conclude in a successful way, because there are sectors that still need help in order to develop better technologies to electrify more. There is a difficulty in the full electrification of gas or ceramics because they require certain pattern on radiation that is difficult to get from the electrification, and that was easy to get from gas flames. So it still needs some research and demonstration in order to do this electrification. But we have the capacity, we have very good engineer schools, and we have the electricity, the water, and the hydrogen. So we really feel like we are a very stable and safe place, so that we attract industries to Portugal. I suppose, and not here to talk in name of Spain, but it's a very similar situation in terms of because we have an internal an Iberian electricity market, so we share these objectives of the decarbonization and also the price of electricity. We continue to be a bit of an island, but we are doing as an island, we are doing our best to attract investment.
Thank you very much, Minister. And of course, we are aware of the recent Spain, Portugal, Iberian cooperation agreement on energy and water. And we certainly think that this is a great base also for as we go onwards for an agreement, who knows, on green reindustrialization, because these two countries are certainly united by strengths, but also by weaknesses. If we think at, for example, if we look at the Cleantech startups, Cleantech innovators, the Spanish and Portuguese startups in this sector receive 70% less investment than the ones in France and Germany. So certainly we need to double down efforts there. So in this sense, I'd like to address you maybe another question, thinking from the angle of building the factories of the future in Iberia. You mentioned cement, glass, we know green steel, sustainable aviation fuels. These are all competitive edges for this area. How do you see the public funding as role in supporting these innovators and supporting them in the scalability?
Let me talk a little bit on the Portuguese-Spanish agreement. We have done a very comprehensive agreement on water. I'm not going to give you the details, but it's an agreement on the new way of governance between our common rivers, that all the big Portuguese rivers are Iberian, they come from Spain. And that is very important because we were having a lot of problems with the scarcity of water in the south of Portugal. And we also have an agreement on biodiversity to do work together on protection of nature. And the third agreement is on the development of the adapt our rules, our electricity market to the new rules of the European electricity market. So we need to design the PPAs and CFDs in the similar way because we share the market, and also the storage strategy and the flexibility strategy along the same principles. So that is in the agreement, and we look forward to develop this together. Having said that, how do I see the public money? What we are doing is we are giving special benefits to these sectors. They are considered the electricity intensive sectors. That is one of the points that we are doing. So they have a discount on the tariff, on the price of the electricity. The second thing that we are doing is on the renewable gases. We are giving fundings from the Recovery and Resilience Plan for pilot programs and to start the market, both on hydrogen and biomethane and other renewable gases. Third, we have a special from the revenues of the carbon taxes. We are starting next year supporting also sustainable aviation fuels factories that want to install in Portugal. We would like very much to be a country with production of sustainable aviation fuels, because we consider that we have electricity and hydrogen and space, and it's something that is new. Not a lot of countries are still producing, and it's going to be, there is a market, because by a directive every year it will increase the amount of that needs to be introduced in the fuel for aviation. So it's what we are doing already in the moment, and it's important that we finance emerging markets to start up. After they will develop, that they will not need public money, but in the beginning it's very important.
Thank you very much, Minister. I would like to take now a helicopter view and look a bit towards broadly towards Europe, and from the angle that we see the industrial maps shifting, and the upcoming force, I would say, of the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal. I would like to ask you, Dite, what do you think are the key drivers to make the upcoming clean industrial deal a success? And maybe how do you think that we can maintain and even increase our competitiveness in this space?
Thank you very much. First of all, well, thank you for inviting me here. It's really nice to be at the Portuguese Pavilion, and pastéis is probably the best cake in the world, so even better, looking forward to that. But it's also good because I think a lot of what the Minister has said really points to some of the strengths, advantages and opportunities of Europe. Portugal and the Iberian Peninsula have a lot of these advantages already in themselves, the renewables capacity, your capacity, your openness to the world. You mentioned the port of Sines and the whole area there that is really an industrial development for hydrogen and green energy. So there's a lot there, and so speaking about our competitiveness at the Portuguese Pavilion is a good place to speak about it, I think. As we are preparing the new Clean Industrial Deal, looking at how do we strengthen European competitiveness, we of course have a really strong analytical underpinning in the report of Professor Draghi and the report of Professor Letta on the internal market that point to both what are some of the challenges but also what can be done. And I think we should probably look at it in recognizing that we start actually from a very good place. We've achieved a lot over the last few years. In particular, we have set a very ambitious and clear regulatory framework in the field of energy. You have been working on that a lot in the European Parliament. And it means that Europe, compared to many other parts of the world, has a very clear direction, a clear signal to markets, to investors, to stakeholders about where is it we're going in the field of energy. And I think we shouldn't underestimate that very, very clear framework that if combined with our internal market and the opportunities we have from that, if we strengthen our internal market, if we work even more closely together, that really is a significant advantage that few other places in the world can have that advantage and that ability. We also have challenges, of course, and we have disadvantages. And one of the things that is very significant for Europe is the fact that we have higher energy prices than, for example, the US or China or other competitors. And so one of the things we will be looking at in the Clean Industrial Deal is how to address that. What can we do to lower the bill for consumers, households, businesses of energy? It's obviously not the only challenge. There are other policy aspects, other structural conditions for investments that need to be addressed, but it really is a central one. We have put in place, and you mentioned it, Minister, the electricity market design that really tries to make sure that the consumer bills, the consumer prices, are decoupled from the high and volatile fossil prices that we saw during the crisis, very, very dramatic. And as you have said, we need to implement with the power, with the PPAs, the power purchasing agreements, contracts for difference for clean energy to help make that decoupling. The other thing we see is that one of the most significant ways that we can lower system costs is by working more closely together, by coordinating better, by investing in infrastructure and including cross-border infrastructure and interconnections. Now, you mentioned the fact that the Iberian Peninsula is close to an island in energy terms and electricity terms, and there's a clear need for cross-border infrastructure. It will benefit Portugal and Spain, but it will also benefit the rest of Europe because you have such a significant capacity in generating renewable electricity. So there are some things that we need to do together at European level, and these are European objectives, common European objectives, but they're things that we know, they're there, we know what is needed. Another example is closer cooperation cross-border in terms of planning and investments. Instead of investing in the same capacity mechanisms on two sides of the border, if you invest in cross-border infrastructure, either you don't need the capacity mechanism because the interconnectors across border provide that flexibility, that stability, or you may need only one of the capacity mechanisms rather than two. So there are some inefficiencies in the system that can be removed with a stronger energy union, with really building that cooperation more closely. I think another related aspect is that of access to investment. We have talked about that, and I will not say more about it. You're here, so I will leave that to you, but it is an important aspect where we can do more in our financial markets and trying to see what more can we do from the level of governments and policymakers to leverage private investments, to de-risk private investments, and thereby lower the cost of capital.
Thank you very much, Dite. I would like to hand over to Jean-Christophe with the same question, how do we maintain and maybe even increase our competitive edge? But before that, I would like to thank the Minister for Energy and Environment for joining us. I know you have an upcoming commitment, urgent commitment, so I'd like to excuse the Minister for the rest of the panel and really thank you for joining us so far.
Thank you very much, and I apologize, but I have another commitment, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. So, Jean-Christophe, over to you.
Yes. First, thanks for having me here. I do agree with the pastejnata being the best cake in the world. It's the most important part of my intervention today. First thing on what has been said about the particular opportunity for the Iberian Peninsula. We're talking a lot about hydrogen, and I'm just coming from a panel on hydrogen actually. The only two pure hydrogen projects that we have financed are both in the Iberian Peninsula. One is in Chinish, we've talked about it, and the other one is with Iberdrola, where we have financed a combined wind plus battery plus green hydrogen / green ammonia production. So definitely Iberia has a very interesting card to play, and actually the movers and shakers, in particular in this field of green hydrogen, are coming from the Iberian Peninsula. This is the only place where there are tangible investments at the moment really being put forward to advance also on green hydrogen transport, which we haven't talked about, which is a point. Now, this all said, and acknowledging that Iberia at the moment is doing fantastically, that economic growth is there, that there are lots of opportunities, I think the challenge for the Iberian Peninsula is going to be skills, and in particular skills in the innovation field, because however good Iberian Peninsula is in developing an industry infrastructure, in particular for energy, the combination of this infrastructure with innovation is going to be absolutely key for the years to come. And there, you have to say that the Iberian Peninsula probably still has a bit of a way to go. This is in particular the case for Cleantech, right? Because for Cleantech, and we know that we still need quite a number of the solutions of tomorrow to be developed, to be brought to first of a kind, to be deployed industrially. On there, we still have a lot of progress to make, European-wise, but it's also true for the Iberian Peninsula. The equity investors in particular are subscale in the Iberian Peninsula, and we know that we have unfortunately a very fragmented European investor base. Right? Not everybody speaks Spanish, not everybody speaks German, understands the German jurisdictions or the Spanish jurisdictions. You have very few real pan-European equity players. And you, in particular in the Iberian Peninsula, unfortunately, are coming from a history and a tradition where there was little equity finance. Now, things are moving. That's nice. There is we have positioned together with a number of member states, and Spain participated to this so-called European Tech Champion Initiative, which has as an ambition to bring about more 1 billion euro funds. So fund managers, private fund managers with 1 billion euros under management, which is kind of the threshold to say that you're a large-scale investor. Right? There are tens of them in the States, and until very shortly we had 3 or 4 in Europe. And size matters in equity investments. So one of the funds, and actually Spain decided to participate, and this is a tribute to our current EIB president, Nadia Calviño, who actually said, I want to participate with France and Germany. And Spain decided to participate, and there is now the first large-scale fund, which is called Gambara in Spain, and potentially others under preparation. So the Iberian Peninsula is catching up, but it will be absolutely critical to keep on investing into more equity and large equity plays, and also more skills and education in the tech sector in particular, where you are still a little bit, I would say, behind other areas in Europe. This is where I think the game is going to be played, but on the basis of very strong cards in your hand already at the start.
With that strong card, well, we hope to play it smart. Let's listen to what the innovators think about it, about scalability in Cleantech. And we know that EU scale-ups raise 50% less capital than their Silicon Valley peers, no matter the industry. And we also know, as I said before, that Cleantech startups in Iberia receive 70% less investment than their French and German counterparts. So what innovators like you from Rega Energy, working in hard-to-abate sectors in Iberia, think how can you and other Cleantech innovators scale up faster? What's needed?
Okay, first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's a pity that the minister is not already here, because I intend to pass some 3 or 4 messages for her. First of all, Rega, we are a Portuguese, 100% Portuguese company which operate in the renewable gas sector. Our mission is to help the Portuguese industry to decarbonize, and we are doing that with mainly with biomethane projects and also with green H2 projects. We have already 2 H2 projects developing in the central region of the country, one in the Leiria district and the other one in Coimbra district, and the third one that we are starting in Aveiro district. These 3 districts in Portugal are the main districts that the hard-to-abate industries are operating, which are, as the minister mentioned, glass, ceramic, cement, pulp and paper, and steel. Our main customers are from the glass and ceramic and cement sectors. We have a good news that we already firm a long-term agreement with one of our customers, the glass stable one, which is Grisal, which we firm, as I said before, firm this agreement for a long term in last August. But there is some challenge that we face. Okay, the first challenge is that this is a demand sector. If there is no demand, there are no business. Okay, neither for us, neither for our customers, of course. And the price of a green deal, it's too high. So even if they've been awarded, so as we for the PRR, we truly believe the most important benefit that we can achieve is the subsidy for the consumption of the customers. Okay, it was the logical from the first round, the subsidy round 1 year ago, but it was not enough, and the industries need more help in order to increase their consumption, because it's all about the volumes. Okay. In Rega, we are working hard with our customers in order to obtain some solutions, and they are making a huge path to decarbonize their process. They are truly efficient. They try to electrify everything they can, but there is some part of the process that they can not electrify, and the green gas is the solution in order for them to keep their operations in Portugal and I can guess in Spain. And because Portugal, you already said that have all the conditions about the sun, about the wind, but has also good conditions for because of the green natural gas grid, which is very modern, and it can handle all the H2 that we can provide, but also the electricity grid. It allows the industries in order to increase their consumptions. And it is the example, and I want to give you that example, that this customer, which is from Netherlands, because they don't have the conditions in Netherlands in order to increase the production, they choose Portugal to do that. So we are building an ecosystem in Portugal that allows the Portuguese industries to maintain their jobs, their operations, but also to attract others from the outside. But the price is the trigger, the main trigger for the success of this operation.
Thank you very much, Joao. I'll hand over to Alberto from Breakthrough Energy. Alberto, what do we need to scale Cleantech companies faster, and how can we do that to really fuel Iberia's green reindustrialization? Joao mentioned demand, and maybe you have some points to complement that. What's your view?
Thank you very much, first of all, Bianca, for hosting us so superbly, and to the Portuguese Pavilion for having us today here. I might start with a sad note, no, because, but at the same time encouraging, no, because what we are seeing that it's happening in Spain and in Valencia, particularly, increase and makes even more necessary the type of solutions that we are trying to bring to the market. We are talking about technologies that are not helping on creating new economies. It is really at the core of what we need right now, but as well there are technologies, let's not forget about that they can as well support on mitigating some of the impact that we are already seeing, or adapting to them, right? So it is very essential to have this conversation now and even, having the momentum of COP, right? The next thing that I wanted to say is something that it's already forgotten by many people, but probably the Spanish and the Portuguese people were the first entrepreneurs that we had in history, right? It's been centuries ago where the Portuguese especially were raising funds to get ships built, to jump into the oceans and to land into new territories to get products and to establish those connection points, right? And this is pretty much of the DNA of the Iberian Peninsula, right? Even though the landscape has changed right now, the renewable scale-up and drop-on cost has made that renewable electricity is among the cheapest, potentially the cheapest one that we can get in Europe, both in Spain and Portugal. The strategic positioning of the country makes that those overseas connections could be very a reality when it comes about not only hydrogen in this case, but when it comes to producing and exporting goods, and especially in the fact that we are mentioning that electrically connected, the Iberian Peninsula remains an island, but as well on the policy support, on the tailwinds that we are seeing as well, both for Portugal and Spain now. First of all, I totally agree what Joao was mentioning and we were discussing now. I think both Spain and Portugal has been a great homework when it comes to supply, the energy supply, the side of the coin in the past few years. Let's not forget that the recently approved NECP in Portugal, it's aiming to 93% of electricity penetration in the electricity sector, and Spain is doing the same with around 81%. I mean, that's among the highest in Europe, but I would say globally, right? And that huge penetration now demands for, never better said, demand solution that can help on absorbing that electricity, but at the same time reindustrializing and using that to creating the jobs and the skills as well in parallel that we will need in the future, right? So which type of technologies, you name them, we already discussed about them, but it's electrons getting through storage. The minister mentioned the focus, or the common focus on an storage roadmap. The NECP already pencils a few numbers on that front, but as well indirectly using it to produce hydrogen, but as well valuable goods produced from hydrogen, right? SAF has been one of the cornerstones, green steel, the cement, where it needs a suite from the gas usage, and many others, but really focusing on those technologies for us makes a lot of sense, right? In terms of the strengths and the priorities for the region. Now, a few of the elements that we think that would be essential to the risk those investments that we are seeing, and I will tap as well into some of the projects that we've been working together and co-funding in Portugal, particularly to decarbonize. But it is, first of all, it is the policy de-risking. We are seeing that both Portugal and Spain are doing great homework in this sense, right? On the Portuguese side, the recently approved, again, National Energy and Climate Plan really draws the line to, the way ahead. but as well the plans for the national green industrial plan that it could hopefully come in the next few years, it would help on crystallizing that opportunity, right? Similarly in Spain, so we are working on the roots of what would be the new industry law, right, that haven't been updated from 1992, and now it's already about to go out for the parliamentarian discussions. Now, this new policy scheme, industrial policy scheme, what we are seeing is directly replicating what is being discussed at the European level. So taking on the opportunities and the chances from Mario Draghi's word and what it could be the commitment from the European Commission for the next 5 years on what are the strengths and the technologies that Spain should focus on, but as well beyond that, how we can help on promoting industrial hubs, how we can help on fostering the connections to the grid, and therefore, having that technology angle that can support that reindustrialization and new job creation. But as well, policy alone, it would not be enough. So we need as well financial de-risking mechanisms. So recently we were speaking with we had the opportunity to exchange in Madrid a few weeks ago with the Ministry of Industry in Spain, who was talking about this new industrial plan. And he was saying, like, we are very sure that the angle that we are taking here and the pieces that we are putting together are the right ones, but now this could be still, once this out, it's going to be an skeleton. We need the flesh to be, giving color into what would be, the financial mechanisms, what would be the supporting elements for, getting this into a reality. Now, we discussed this about this morning, right? We need a cohesive investment framework from the public sector to help not only some of these technologies, but the entire value chain to reduce risk and reinforce investments, right? So we have great examples of that, but we see that they are scattered now, and there is a lot of work that can to be done to connect them and to make Cleantech a priority among those, right? So in the Portuguese side, the minister was mentioning the Portuguese Climate Agency to bring together the funds and help on pushing for projects to taking off the ground. But in Spain, we have a set of different investment arms. We have CEDETI, we have IDAE, which is working with the PERTES program with the capital, with the money from the Commission. We have many others that are not particularly focused on energy and industrial and reindustrialization right now. But if they would have the means and that narrative connecting them, it would be a very Cleantech funnel to accelerate all of those entrepreneurs and giving the leverage and the speed that they need, right? In that sense, it is not only about the public capital, but it is as well, I would say, the philanthropic angle that we bring in. So we feel that as well donors and philanthropic has a role to play, and we are very happy to see how some of these examples are flourishing when it comes to projects for industrial decarbonization. Now, I would just briefly mention the power to heat, the thermal storage project we have co-funded and announced in June in Portugal with a company called Rondo that is essentially getting these concrete blocks to get electricity and to get hot steam and hot air out of that industrial toaster that they are bringing, and it would help on getting new industries off the ground in that sense, right? And finally, to finish here on the different ingredients we see that are necessary. Of course, regulatory de-risking is very important, right? We are talking about these different incentives, but as well we need to act on permitting. We need to be faster and bolder. We need the speed, the scale, and the simplicity. On the way that we connect these points, and to that it's about governance. It's about getting the skills as well, not only the technical side, but it's skills that are needed by the ministers, that are teams, but are needed by the regulators, that as well are very needed to be able to get that digitalization that sometimes the administration need, but as well, to be able to act faster, right? So to finish it up here, I would say like the elements are there. It is about how we connect them, in a cohesive manner to get that in the clean industrial revolution are making a reality.
Thank you, Alberto. I guess the key word here is de-risking, right? You mentioned it several times, and I think it's also the key work at the moment in the head of investors in Cleantech, but also innovators, right? So with this word, I would like to come back to Jean-Christophe and to ask you, Jean-Christophe, how do we de-risk Cleantech investments? For example, I remember at Cleantech for Europe Summit a few weeks ago in Brussels, proposals, a lot was around public guarantees, about bringing institutional investors on board. How do we de-risk, in your view, and how can the EIB support, leverage clean tech investments at speed and scale in Europe?
So I agree with you. This is about de-risking, but it is multifaceted. And before I jump to the answer that is the most obvious one to me, which is through financial instruments, I think first of all we have to talk about education, because it's also about educating our investors, both on the equity side and on the debt side, about what are these technological risks about. And it is clear that at the moment there is a deficit in terms of education and in terms of proper assessment of the technological risks embedded into clean tech, and association and potentially an over-perception of the risks and an under-perception of returns. Now, it's true that clean tech in particular faces the issue of having technology risks associated with the investment proposal and still facing potentially some infrastructure type returns, because when you go to industrial application, generally it's not like you're a biotech and you discover something that is sold to zillions of people and then suddenly you have your valuation times 20, It is indeed a different type of return. But there is still a case to be said that, we have to become better as well at educating the investors community at large, and Cleantech for Europe and Cleantech for Iberia must contribute to that, as to the risks of the clean tech. Now, in this, the signaling effect of a number of players, whether it is the Innovation Fund, whether it is the European Investment Bank, whether it is potentially other actors, and Breakthrough is one of them, the signaling effect of us backing a number of these technologies must function. It functions already, I have to say. Regularly I meet investors who say, well, it's very comforting that you are there, that you're on board. It is a good signal in terms of opening the door to others. But we have to try to amplify these effects. And then I come to the core of my answer to your question, then I think there is indeed still something missing out there. There are two things missing in my view. The first, which is a typical European phenomenon, it's true for Iberia, it's true for elsewhere. We need European investors with deeper pockets who can actually take the role of lead investor for European-based technologies and technology development throughout the whole cycle of the equity development of a company. And this is missing at the moment in Europe. And what very often you see is that we're fairly good at seed investments, early stage investments, and then when it comes to growth and growth investments and access to capital markets, if it's really an interesting value proposal, the Chinese or the Americans come shopping, because they don't mind putting 500-600 million euros in equity on the table, right? They have these types of investors. We don't. So that's one. And two, we need, as in any good attempt to scale things up, we need debt. Because you can't finance everything on equity. Equity is expensive. So we need we need to invent also instruments, and don't count on the banks to actually provide very large-scale debts to startup companies coming with a new technological solution on the clean tech and having industrial application. It's not their job. There are a number of private debt funds that are coming to age in Europe. It's a segment which is developing slowly, but this is typically where we as public institutions and public financing bodies have a role to play. And I can tell you that we are trying, we're going to do more than trying. We are going to announce in the coming weeks an attempt to do what for the clean tech, what we have done for the wind sector in Europe, and to come with guarantee instruments in order to be able to de-risk others that would be providing the funding and potentially part guarantee with us, to de-risk them in accepting the technology risk and the risk of long-term existence of these clean tech companies. So this is probably the frontier thinking at the moment and what is missing. And we hope that we'll be able to start an initiative soon, as always, together with the European Commission, because we always on these things pair up together, and together we're much stronger. And hopefully this will actually kickstart a movement in Europe to get more debt finance to the cleantech sector.
Thank you very much, Jean-Christophe. I couldn't agree more regarding educating the investors, especially because cleantech, we all know, requires patient capital. It's high capex, has long development timelines, and probably that's why, for example, in the Cleantech for Iberia coalition, we have a set of investors, and only the investors that are part of this coalition, they bring together more than available to be invested for net zero solutions today, as we speak. But these funds are not being translated into the more than 500 cleantech startups that we have across Spain and Portugal. Why is that? They say de-risking more needed at the moment. It's also about educating, it's also about a new culture. We need to strive and head towards that indeed. So I couldn't agree more with that. Thank you very much for your remarks. And we look forward to that instrument on guarantees, which we know that is also very important. And also we work a lot on at the Spanish and Portuguese level here. And I would like to wrap up our discussion coming back to taking this helicopter view, if you want, again, looking at Europe from the competitiveness angle, Dite. How can Europe still lead? And I'm thinking here through the lenses of the Draghi report. We know there's our cleantech sectors where, well, we don't have such an important competitive edge at the moment compared to, for example, China. Where do you think Europe can still lead, and where should focus in the next years? And also, how can we make the best use of public funding? Because we know that 80% of the funds for the energy transition to happen will come from the private. But how can we make the best use of the public funding at the moment, and on which sector?
Thank you very much. As I mentioned in my previous remarks, I think we need to, first of all, draw on the strengths we have, make the best use of them, the internal market, the fact that we have a predictable, stable regulatory framework. Investors know where we're going, they know what the conditions are. So we have a lot that we can draw on, including our green leadership, our leadership in a number of the green energy sectors still. The second point I would make is that de-risking will be absolutely critical. As you said, there's a need for capital. Most of that will have to come from the private market. There is a lot of liquidity there. It's simply not going to where it needs to go. You talked about educating investors, and I fully agree with that. What we see is that the risk assessment is very imprecise. There is a tendency to overestimate, overstate the risks related to investments into the green energy sector. And so if we have an education of investors, if we have a much more precise risk assessment, risk rating, linked to what is still perceived as new, but in reality is not new. That's what we're doing. It's what we've been doing for the last decades. I think we should be able, through that, to lower the cost of capital. And one of the challenges we have is that the cost of capital in Europe, for example, is significantly higher than the cost of capital in China, to give you one example, and that the risk readiness is lower than it is, for example, in the US. But maybe that risk assessment, that more precise understanding of what are the risks, can help. And where you have used all of these, you can look at it as a de-risking ladder, if you will, that if you start by making sure that there is a precise risk appraisal, risk assessment, risk rating, then you should lower the cost a bit. If you know you have a regulatory framework that is clear, you lower the cost of capital even more. If you know there's offtake, if you have offtake agreements, if you have PPAs, contracts for difference, you lower it again. And then at the end, you're going to need some financial instrument, some public support to take that last element of risk that is there. But if you start by the financial de-risking, you're not going to have enough public money to provide the guarantees that are needed. You want to lower the cost of that so that you can get more leverage out of what is limited public budget. So I think we need to work very, very closely with you and with the financial sector, including private finance, to help address some of those things. The good thing, again, is we have actually done a lot. We have such a good framework in place. And so I think we start from a really a position that is that gives reason for hope and some optimism, and we need to get it out there to make it happen.
I certainly think that we need a narrative of hope and of determination at the same time. So I think, well, Iberia also is the narrative of hope. We need to build on that. And with that, I'd like to wrap up, but not before giving you the opportunity to make some final remarks, maybe lightning remarks, maybe 30 seconds, on what do you think about, Iberian Peninsula and its role in Europe's clean tech leadership. I'll start with Alberto this time.
Yes. So in terms of what it needs for that ecosystem to grow, I would not say anything else. I think everything has said by Dite, and I totally subscribe what she has just now highlighted. Totally, but I just wanted to say that it is our core of Breakthrough Energy's mission to, keep on collaborating and researching the work that we do together by attracting more investment and being able to deploy more capital resources, in this case to the Iberian Peninsula, through companies like Rega, through projects like the one that we co-funded with the European Commission. So it's in our core mission to keep on working with the EIB and strengthening the type of thought leadership that we can provide. We are doing a workshop in long duration and started soon in Luxembourg, but as well in the type of projects that we can find together and reduce the cost of those, but as well at the core of our mission to keep on working with the Commission and finding these gaps in regulation and policy to get the market fit for purpose. I think the elements are there. I think the willingness is there. It is about taking the opportunity.
Oh.
Thank you. I think the main message that I want to pass is that we in Portugal are trying to create a movement of make made in Portugal, made sustainable. We are building a unique ecosystem, at least as far as I know, in Portugal, to have all kinds of sources of energy in order to have a more competitive industry. But I have to request to mate. Maybe some assistant of the minister can hear or can pass this message. We need the regulatory framework that is already in our country. We cannot start our operation because there is no regulatory framework in order, for example, to build the H2 pipelines. Okay, that is the first one. And the second one is the electro-intensive status that we aren't already given to us, and that we need desperately for that status. Okay.
Thank you, Jean-Christophe.
Look, I'll be super brief. We are in Europe. We are specialists from time to time at self-criticizing ourselves, right? Yeah, the Americans do it better and this and that. Well, it's not true. So my only conclusion here is vamos, right?
Vamos. Dite.
Fully agree. I think Portugal and Spain have immense opportunities and can really play a leading role in Europe in the green transition and innovation. And so I'm fully behind that. Let's do it, and a lot of reasons for hope and optimism.
Thank you very much, all of you, for your leadership in making this happen. I think this was a great wrap-up in an optimistic and, I would say, sweet way. A good previous step for the pastéis de nata who are waiting for us. Thank you very much, and thank you very much also to the participants for being with us until this time. Thank you.